Hi guys, hope you are all having a great Joti so far. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to let everybody join and then we will get started with the webinar. In the meantime, let us know in the chat which country you're joining from and also your favorite social media channel. Wonderful. We can see that we have people coming in from the UK, from Sri Lanka. Great to see.
So early in the UK. Thank you for joining us bright and early. We have participants from Malaysia. That's actually where we are. We're in Malaysia. Hello. Philippines, Sri Lanka. Thank you so much for joining. We also want to hear from you. What are your favorite social media channels? So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, which one are you using the most? It'll give us some ideas of what we can talk about today. Okay. Oh, I see YouTube, which we didn't mention. So thanks for bringing that up, Brandon. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, got a little bit of everything. Let's see, we have participants from Bangladesh, Vietnam, South Africa. Oh, also very, very early for you in South Africa.
Thanks so much for joining so early. It's hugely appreciated. We'll give it a couple more seconds and then we will get started with the session today.
Someone mentioned Discord as well, which we don't think about too often, actually.
We do not,
so that's a good one.
Very good. Okay, everybody, in the interest of time, we're going to get started. So we will start today with a quick introduction of who is going to be hosting this session. So my name is Angel Turner and I am the social media coordinator here at the World Organization of the Scout Movement.
Yeah, and Angel's from the United Kingdom. My name is Lynn. I'm from Canada and I'm the manager for digital marketing here at WISM. So if you don't know what WISM is the World Organization of the Scout Movement, also known as World Scouting. And our head office is based in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. So that's where we're calling in from today.
Perfect. And today we are going to go through social media for social good. So Lynn, can you tell us what today's session is about?
Sure. So we thought it would be really fun to talk about this topic because we know that so many scouts love using social media and so many scouts love doing things to help their community. So we thought, oh, can we find a way to help you see the connection between these two things? So while you're on social media, how can you practice your scout values? How can you share the amazing work you're doing? Because we know that you can help lead by example by sharing some good examples of the awesome things that you're doing in scouting or maybe in other areas of your life.
Perfect. So let's get straight to it. So a question that I want to ask you all today is, what do you think advocacy is? Let us know in the comments and then we will go through a little bit of an explanation based on your answers. So I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes here to let us know in the chat box what you think advocacy is.
Share your answers in the chat. We'll read them out on the screen. So what does it mean to advocate for something?
So from a direct translation of advocacy, advocacy is public support for a particular cause or policy. So that's a great mention in the chat, is doing good for others. That is a form of advocacy. That is something that you can advocate for. So within scouting, it can be as big as scouts attending the United Nations, for example, to fight for recognition of the importance of non-formal education, or advocacy can be just as small as telling your friends how important it is to not litter. So when we refer to advocacy, it doesn't matter whether it's a big or a small action that you're taking, because all advocacy work creates an impact. And we all know that lots of small impacts can create big change or big impact in the community.
Yeah. We also had a couple answers come in. So Nida says doing good for others. So when it comes to advocacy, the good work that you're doing for others, it means that you're sharing that to help inspire other people and also to help influence decisions, which is what Muhammad also shared with us. He said it's influencing decisions. That's a really important part of it. And it's really important for you to know that you actually do have a voice and you do have the power to influence decisions. And that doesn't mean that you have to be talking to a president or a prime minister. It can be the way that you influence your family to take better decisions as a household in terms of what you purchase, or it can be like helping your friends like learn about littering or recycling or whatever the topics are that you're really passionate about. Equality, mental health, these are some of the things that we know Scouts care a lot about.
And it can go so much further than that. There is always so many things that we know Scouts and young people around the world are super passionate about. So it can be from all the examples that Lynn said to simply just, advocating for people to feel good and create a community about the things that you care about.
Yeah. Before we go on, Angel, I just want to remind everyone that you can leave your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A box, because we're going to leave some time at the end to answer your questions. So if you have questions about how to use social media, how to get your voice heard online, leave your questions there and we will come back to them later.
Perfect.
All right. How World Scouting uses social media for social good. So we hope that you follow us on social media. Do you? Let us know in the chat if you're already following us. If not, you can find us at World Scouting. Awesome. I see a few people are already following us. We really appreciate it. So you'll see that when it comes to advocacy, for our social media channels, it's really about a trend that we show over time, the way that Scouts are helping create a better world. And there's so many different ways that we do that. One of the main ones that you see during Jyoti Jyoti, for example, is how we promote international friendship. And this might seem like a small thing, but friendship and international friendship is actually a really big deal because it's something that over time helps us create more peace and understanding, greater dialogue, and better conversations that help us create a better world. So you'll see that trend on our pages. And then sometimes we'll have posts that are a little bit more direct about how Scouts are advocating for things like education, gender equality, and often for the environment through things like the Earth Tribe, for peace through Messengers of Peace, and so on. So those are some of the ways that you'll see it on our channels.
So now that we've spoken about advocacy on World Scouting channels, we're going to look at maybe some public figures that you may know who use their social media channels for social good. So do you recognize the people on the screen? Let us know in the chat. You may have seen one of them yesterday if you tuned into Jyoti Jyoti Live, because Bear Grylls had a segment on Jyoti Jyoti Live yesterday. So a quick introduction before we go into much more detail about both of these people. Bear Grylls is somebody who advocates for the environment and youth engagement as the chief ambassador of World Scouting. And you may recognize Malala, who is an activist for girls' education and women's rights. And we're going to go into a bit more detail about them. But before we touch on that, you yourself can be somebody who uses social media for social good because you are a Scout and you may just love creating content and want to share messages about the things that you care about. So let's go on to learn about Bear Grylls and his impact on social media.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Bear Grylls is actually the chief ambassador for World Scouting. He loves scouting. He really believes in the power of education, outdoor adventure, and all of the things that we do in scouting, like the skills that we learn, the fact that we are always learning by doing and that we learn throughout our entire lives. And because he believes in this, he tends to promote it a lot. And because he's our chief ambassador, he loves to, wear his purple Scout scarf or his UK Scout scarf in his different roles, and yeah, promote the great work that young people are doing. So sometimes you'll see like the post on screen here, it's really clearly a scouting post. Other times you might even see him on his TV shows and he has a Scout emblem on his shoulder, on his coat. And he's not even talking about scouting, but he's still representing scouting. And that's one thing for you to remember, is that you get to represent scouting in all sorts of different aspects of your life, whether or not you're talking about it, because the scouting brand comes out in things like the way that you behave, the way that you make friends, the way that you show, those scout values like loyalty, being a friend to all, being helpful and resourceful. All of those things, like Bear shows in all of his actions and all of his posts, actually are part of how you represent scouting online and offline.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Lynn. And going on to Malala. So Malala is somebody that we might think of as kind of a more traditional activist. She's very clear with her social media posts that she is advocating for a change. The messaging is very obvious. She's usually touching on a specific subject or commenting on something going on in the press or the media at that moment in time. So if you don't already know Malala, Malala is somebody who rose to the public eye after she was shot by the Taliban for attending schools when girls were banned from school in Pakistan. So Malala, for her activism and fighting for the rights of girls to attend and have an education, received a Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 17. So she is very obvious about the effects that the Taliban had on her, and that's from her injury. She regularly shares posts across social media of the work or any medical attention that she's needed to have to fix her injury. And from that, she takes a message to be able to show that she's gone through something very traumatic. She still rose ahead and still argues and says that she would go through it again to ensure that women and young girls have a right to access education.
Yeah, and I found two things about Malala and also her presence on social media that I think Scouts can learn from. One is, like, in the post that you see here, she is just sharing her personal experience. It's in her own words, something fancy. It's just her telling her own story. And that's something that we can all do. We can always share our stories of scouting, of community service work that we're doing, or anything else. In our own words, and you will actually be maybe surprised at how much people can find that to be very relatable. And the other thing I find that is very relevant to scouting with Malala's message is the message of resilience. And this is one that Bear Grylls talks about a lot as well. He considers that one of the most important skills that we get in scouting. And of course, Malala is an amazing example of resilience. She's gone through the most difficult thing that we could ever imagine, and she still is committed to supporting girls, supporting the message of education. So I think those are some of the things you can take away from that, is helping share these messages of building resilience or other skills that you gain from scouting, and sharing from like a more personal perspective, your own story.
Definitely, because at the end of the day, each and every one of you has a different story to tell when it comes to scouting and the things that you care about. And whilst you may share similarities or similar passions with other people, you'll have a different way of saying that and explaining that and engaging your community. And your community could be as large as Malala's or Bear Grylls. Across social media, you might be reaching several million, or you may be reaching a much smaller pool of people. But the point is that the people that you're reaching are interested in you, they're interested in your opinion, and they want to learn about the things that you care about. So it's great, and you should always share the things and your passions in your own voice with your own spin on it.
Yeah, don't try to be anyone else, because we do see right through that. When we're on social media, we can tell when somebody is not being true to themselves, and we just don't buy it, right?
Exactly.
We want to hear your authentic experiences, and we personally would love to see your stories. So we hope that we'll get to hear some of them later.
Definitely. So now we're going to touch on a little fun game. We're going to share some videos with you, and you have to decide whether or not you believe this to be advocacy. So we're going to go on, and I'm going to share a video with you all.
So you can just hop on the chat when the video starts and let us know, yes or no, is this advocacy? All right. Should turn the sound. I don't know if we can. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear and see the video. Right, thanks for the thumbs up. So this is a very, very short clip. Let's play it one more time in case anyone missed it. Is this advocacy? Yes or no? Okay, so I'm seeing some people are saying yes. Why do you believe this is advocacy? It's a very short video. Can you really pass through a message in such a short time? I think this video might be like 5 seconds long. It's very short.
Yeah, it's very short.
Yeah.
It's great to see you all answering in the chat.
Yeah,
that
thank you.
Think that this is advocacy. If anybody wants to give their reasoning as to why they think this is advocacy, that would be great.
I'll share my perspective, and I'd love to hear, oh, I got an answer here from Maxwell. He said, because it shows that you can feel compassion to your family. And of course, we love it when we refer to Scouts as family, because we are really a global family. So thanks for that answer, Maxwell. And I completely agree. For me, this shows one of the most important aspects of Scouting, the friendship that we get, the sense of community, the sense of belonging that we get in Scouting. And it's in such a simple way. Actually, Brandon just said in the chat, yes, it's just the vibe. I think that's the great way to put it.
That is
It
a great way
Yeah.
to put it.
It's just such a nice vibe. It gives us a nice warm feeling. And I think that anyone watching this, whether or not they're a Scout, would actually be able to feel that and sense that. And that is a great way to do advocacy. You want your message to be something that can be understood and respected by different people with different life experiences, right? And that's why it's important to be kind, to be approachable, and to use language that's very simple. And that's why a 5-second video can actually be way more impactful sometimes than a 5-minute video, right?
For sure. We definitely see, especially with changing social media trends, that short form video is taking a huge overtake on the type of content that is engaged with and consumed by people like you. So it is really important to see the simplest way to share your message. So rather than wanting to share super long messaging, a nice simple statement, and exactly as Brandon referred to, the vibe of the video, it's clear from the get-go what this video is and the type of message that it's trying to portray. And it's amazing that it can be portrayed in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. And you can check out her channel for more examples like this. She is a Brazilian Scout, Bia, who does a lot of posts that just help show the friendship, the sense of international friendship that we get in Scouting. And she also talks a lot about the importance of including girls and women in Scouting. So really nice channel to follow.
Perfect. So next session to go on to is, do you think this next video is a form of advocacy? Let's take a look.
So let us know in the chat, yes or no, and why.
Are you ready? Let's go.
Since doing my project in being involved in service, I gained a lot of confidence, and that confidence allowed me to use my voice and speak up about things that I was seeing in my National Scout organization that I wanted to change. And for me, that last summer, that was about reconciliation between Canada and its Indigenous people. And so I reached out to my National Scout organization, and they asked me to sit on their board of directors. I am the first Indigenous woman to sit on Scouts Canada's National Board of Directors. So every time
All right, we're waiting for your comments in the chat.
I'll replay the video for you guys one more time just to have a quick look to see if you think that this is advocacy.
doing my project in being involved in service, I gained a lot of confidence, and that confidence allowed me to use my voice and speak up about things that I was seeing in my National Scout organization.
Make sure you
that
let
I
us
wanted
know
to
in the
change.
chat whether or
And
not
for
you
me,
think
that
this
last
is
summer, that
a
was about
form of
reconciliation
advocacy.
between Canada and its Indigenous people. And so I reached out to my National Scout organization, and they asked me to sit on their board of directors. I am the first Indigenous woman to sit on Scouts Canada's National Board of Directors. So every time I'm asked about.
All right.
We've got a bit of interesting. Some people think it's advocacy. Some people are not too sure if it's advocacy. So Brandon, great she feels genuinely happy, so for sure. But the messaging that she's portraying is advocating that the project that she did gave her confidence to take a next step to go even further. So Kayla is a Messengers of Peace hero from 2021. Whose initial advocacy project was for creating peace and supporting the mental health of youth during the COVID-19 pandemic. So from that project, she gained an additional confidence to approach her National Scout organization, Scouts Canada, to work on reconciliation efforts between Canada's Indigenous people and how it is represented in Scouting. So this for sure is a video of advocacy, because what Kayla's doing here is she's advocating not only for peace, but also for the reconciliation of Indigenous people and Scouts Canada, and ensuring how can we move forward on maybe a past that was a little bit rocky or where there's hurt has happened. She's working to create a better world, which is something that we refer to all the time, is that the work that Scouts do works to create a better world.
Yeah. And we did get one comment that the video or the clip we shared is just showing a problem. And actually, it's a really interesting point. And it's something that can be debated a little bit sometimes even here, is that how much should we be showing the problem versus the solutions? And we are very much solution oriented. We're Scouts. We are always looking for how to help, how to create a better world. But one thing that is really important when we're communicating is that we have to help people care about things. Maybe they don't know what the problem is. And especially when it comes to the global communication, we've been learning how much problems are different in different countries, right? In some countries, it's still really important to advocate about things like littering, recycling, and so on. In other countries, that part is less important, and it's more onto like the advocacy with governments and so on. So it really depends on different countries and where they're at with different issues or certain cultural values and so on. And so we do think it is important to show the problem and to present the problem to help people kind of get an understanding of it and help them care and become passionate about it. We just have to be careful with that so that we don't become like too negative, that it's really showing that we can have an impact, and just enough of sharing about the problem so that we can show what the solution could be.
Definitely. And what you'll find is that especially from World Scouting's social media channels, we do offer different variations of the story on different platforms. So for example, with this video, we're very much focused on the positive outcome of the work that Kayla has done, but you'll also be able to find in other situations where there may be an article or another social media post highlighting maybe more of what the initial problem was, or more of the steps that she took to overtake the problem. So there's different ways that we can share a similar message or different parts of the message, and from those posts we also get different responses. So it's a way of creating a longer conversation about a particular topic.
Yeah. And the last comment I'll read out here is someone said, a person who is genuine with their feelings would also be genuine with their words. It's a comment on how she appears to be very happy. And I completely agree. I think Kayla is one example who's really good at bringing out that passion of hers when she talks about things.
Definitely.
And I think it takes a bit of practice.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to be able to portray the way that you think and feel about a subject that's kind of the most open to other people that may be outside of the topic that you're discussing.
Yeah.
So it's a great skill to have, and it's definitely something that takes a lot of practice to be able to get there.
I think that especially when a camera is in your face, that can be a little bit intimidating. And one thing to keep in mind is that your enthusiasm, like, it won't translate as well over camera. So we kind of need to be extra enthusiastic when there's a camera in front of us in order for it to translate across to the other screen. So keep that in mind and just start by having those conversations with family and friends, and don't be afraid to show your passion in that. And then the more you practice, the more it'll come out when you're on social media and
For
on video.
sure. And
right?
also don't be afraid of it being perfect the first time.
Yeah.
As we all know, as scouts, we learn by doing. So in this example, you may start off and you may think, oh, maybe I could have done this differently, or maybe I didn't get my message across as well. Just take the first step, post, see how it does, and build on that experience to improve that skill.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that if you wait until you feel like it's perfect or it's ready, you will wait forever.
Yeah.
It will never happen. So don't wait to feel like it's perfect. Just start and be a scout, learn by doing.
Perfect. So on to the next. Do you think this is advocacy? Let us know in the chat whether or not you think this is a form of advocacy.
Yes, no, and why.
I don't like the tension, the misapprehensions about our nation love. The glorious teachers are no use for creatures who knows how to play with the God. You got
We have some comments. Thanks, Lily. It's nice to hear from you. She says, yes, she's here with her friends a lot. And we have Maxwell who shared again, yes, because it shows what they believe in. Two good points.
Very good point.
Yeah. So this is a fun example. It's a recent one where we actually took a delegation of scouts, our youth representatives, to the United Nations in New York. And we were there because they were having a conference called Transforming Education. And of course, in scouting, we're learning and for the type of learning that we do in scouting. So that's what they were doing there. And we thought it was important in this case to keep the volume up on some of those clips that you saw where you can hear them laughing and having fun. And the reason for that is because that's part of what we're doing. It's not because it's advocacy that you have to be super serious all the time. No, we want you to have fun, of course, and show people that you're having fun while you do it, because that's what's going to inspire people to join you. If everything is always serious and, like was mentioned earlier, only problem focused and so on, it can feel very dark and a bit discouraging, I think.
Definitely.
So yeah, show the friendship that comes with it, show the fun sides of it, the laughter and the smiles as well.
Yeah.
Another commenter said genuine happiness is also portrayed, which is great. A little bit of tech savviness in here, yes. And as Maxwell said, showing what they believe in was also included in here. So a few different dimensions. What do you think?
Definitely. And I think scouts are a great example is that they can show that they're championing for something that's actually really important, but they can do it in a fun way.
Yeah.
Is that it doesn't, just because scouts are having fun and doing things in a positive way doesn't make the messaging behind that less important. It's just showing that they're thoroughly enjoying and passionate about the things that they're championing for. And as we can see in this video, scouts are great at doing this and portraying it in a fun and exciting way. And we know that you guys have the skills and the same scout mindset to be able to do this yourself.
Yeah, we do. We believe it. And you can see in the comments here too, people love seeing it because it's like that laughter, the smiles, the fun side of it. It's contagious.
Exactly. It's super cool.
Yeah. Maybe
Amazing.
before the next examples, I just want to remind you, we want your questions for the end of our segment. So please drop them in the Q&A or in the chat box so that we can answer all of your questions.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we can give you as many tools and tips and tricks of how to go away from this session and use your social media for social good. So make sure you ask as many questions as you can to make this worthwhile. So on to the next. Here we go. So we've seen the 3 videos. So we're going to go on to a nice tweet that we had from Scouts in Kenya, talking about environmental impact. So as Scouts, we all know we're very passionate about the environment and taking care and how we can make sure that we are building a sustainable world for future generations to come. So in Kenya, the Scouts here made a great point about how we can talk and, tell our friends, tell our family, tell our community about how it's important to take actions, but actually going out and taking action and having photos and videos to show of the actions that they've taken can be so much more impactful and motivating than just word of mouth. So from this, obviously, when you guys are out doing community work, it may not be your top priority to take photos and videos because you're so invested in the work that you're doing and you want to make sure that you're using your time as well as you possibly can. However, do remember that if you do manage to create any footage or anything like this, you'll be able to amplify your voice with this. So let us know in the comments if you think that this is a form of advocacy.
Great, we already have one answer. Yes, because they're showing how to take actions that inspire people to care about the environment.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a really key. And I think that's exactly what it is. Having the photos and being able to see the impact in the community and the community together, working towards cleaning up their environment. You can see that's a real community effort and it's very motivating and inspiring. It makes me want to go out and clean up my local environment and gather my friends and family to be able to go do that together.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's that leading by doing, leading by example, and hopefully others will join you when you show that.
Definitely. Any more reasons as to why you think that this is advocacy? Let us know in the chat. We've had some really great answers so far, so we are so happy that you're engaging with this. It's super fun and great for us to see how you think and how you are taking on these social media posts and how it makes you feel.
Yeah. So I think what we're trying to show you with these last 4 examples that we shared is that advocacy can look like a lot of different things. So it might sound like a word that's like advocacy. What do I have to do with advocacy? But don't worry about that term. Just share something that's genuine to you, that's authentic to you, and try to help inspire others through your own experience.
Exactly. As we mentioned at the very beginning of this, advocacy can be something huge, and we referred to going to the UN, or it can be as small as telling your friends and family about the importance of not littering. But what we need to remember is that any form of advocacy, whether big or small, creates an impact, and that impact can go on to create great and huge change in your environment, for your community, and for the world that we keep referring to, that Scouts are here to create a better world.
Absolutely.
So we're going to move on from our examples of advocacy to talk a little bit more about how you as Scouts can use social media and some of the things that you need to remember when using social media. So.
All right. Do you want to do this one?
Yeah. So when we are on social media, the first thing that we need to remember is how can we make sure that we're staying safe? So the first thing that you can do is take the Be Safe Online learning course. So you'll find this on the campsite under the Safety Center, but if not, for a quick win, you can scan the QR code on the screen and it'll take you straight to the course. Now, the course is available in English, Spanish, French, and Russian. So make sure you are taking it, and you also get a certificate. So if you want to get that certificate, take the course. And then another thing when we're on social media is that we should consider keeping your personal and advocacy profile separate. So whether or not you choose to do advocacy solo, maybe you have lots of passion and lots of things that you want to talk about, so you feel that you have enough content to share by yourself, or maybe you want to set up a social profile as a scout group, we would really recommend that you keep your personal life and that profile separate. This ensures that one, you're safe, that the internet is a very, very big place. There are hundreds, millions of people on the internet. So we really want to make sure as scouts that we're not sharing any personal information, anything that can be traced back to you. You don't want people contacting you that you don't know. So that's why it's really important to keep your profile separate.
Yeah, and that's especially for those who are under 18. You have to be extra cautious. I know that, if you're over 18, you might have different choices, and that's up to you. But when we're under 18, it's really important to be safe because we're much more vulnerable to some of the dangers of the internet that you can learn about in the Be Safe online course. And also a reminder that for people under the age of 13, you're not allowed to have a social media account according to their websites. So it is important that we kind of, all play a role in making sure that we protect young people from that online.
Definitely. And then point number 3 is make sure you report any concerning content or comments to relevant contacts. So when we're talking about relevant contacts, that can be the Safe from Harm team here at World Scouting. It can be your scout leader. It can be the social platform itself. Every social media platform nowadays has a report button. Please make sure that you're making use of the block, the mute, the report. All of those tools that are on social media are there to protect you. And you can also tell your parents if you see anything that concerns you, or if anybody is saying anything that's hurtful. Use those tools and use the community around you to make sure that you are staying safe and to also manage your well-being. Social media is a huge place. It can also be a bit scary sometimes. I'm sure we have all had instances where we've received not very nice comments on social media. And as much as we want to say that words don't harm, sometimes they do. And it's okay if we need to take a break and take a step back and block that person or report them. Those tools are there for you to use. So make sure you use them.
Yeah. Absolutely. I also have a comment asking about where on the campsite you can find the Be Safe online. So actually, if you go to jotajoti.info, you'll see that there's a section that says Be Safe. So you can find all of the course links there in 4 languages. You can find lots of other information there. And on the campsite, there's a little safety center. So you can go there for more information about safety at Jotajoti.
Perfect. And then our final point for this section is make sure that when you're on social media, you're being kind. We say this a lot, lead by example. Make sure that you're treating others in the way that you would want to be treated. So we've just referred to not saying harmful comments or being mean to anybody. Make sure that that's the what you're instilling and how you are using your social media voice. So in the instances where people get a little bit keyboard warrior-y, we want to make sure that we're taking a step back and don't be too reactive. I know in the heat of the moment when we're really passionate about things, it can be really easy to just jump on and say things to get your point across. But we always recommend just taking a step back, taking a breather and thinking thoroughly about what we want to put on. Because when we put things on social media, it's there forever. Even if you delete it within 5-10 minutes, the likelihood is that it's already been screenshotted, it's already made its way around other social channels. Whatever you put on, make sure that you are happy for it to be there forever, because as soon as it's out on the internet, you really have no control of taking it or retracting it. So
yeah, so it's best to just come back to it the next day, see
Yeah.
how you feel the next day. There is a question. Well, first of all, I just want to give a shout out to Tamina and Iruni and everyone else who said that they got their Be Safe online certificates. Thank you. We
Great
have
work,
114 people online with us right now. So we expect after this that we'll have 114 people with certificates, right?
definitely.
But I have a question about the last thing you were saying. Somebody is asking, what if the majority of comments are toxic?
So if the majority of comments are toxic, this is where you can use, for one, the social media tools to the resources on there. So you can actually limit the amount of people that can comment on your post. You can drop it down to just people that you follow, or you can instantly turn off your comments. In the same for direct messages, you have full control over who is able to send you private messages. That can be people that you follow, or again, you can close your direct messages if you don't want to receive those messages. If you're starting to feel that you are receiving a lot of negative comments or people being unkind to you on social media, then definitely use those features, but also make sure that you tell somebody so that they're aware this is happening to you on social media. And maybe at that point, it's time to maybe take a step back for a little bit, reassess, because we really don't want you to be in a position where what's being said to you online is affecting you offline. So that leads us actually perfectly into our next step, which is talking about social media and your well-being.
So I'm gonna go quickly through this because I have a couple questions and we have 4 minutes left, so I'll be really quick. Angel already touched on some of these, but one thing we really wanted to make sure that we remind you of today is setting boundaries with social media, because as much as we believe that there's so much good that we can do online, we can learn so many things. Like I follow so many accounts that inspire me every day, that help me learn about my well-being, like so many different things, you know. And I love learning about environment through some of the Instagram channels I follow. I love seeing what scouts around the world are doing, but at the same time, we know that social media can be very addictive. And so it's important to set some boundaries for yourself. So just take a moment to think about how much time you realistically want to be spending on social media every day. Are you happy to spend 45 minutes a day scrolling on Instagram? If so, if that's something that you feel you get something from, sure, that's great. But also consider, what are you looking at when you're there? How does it make you feel? Are you looking and then feeling like a lot of feelings of maybe envy or jealousy? Sometimes we can find that that's how we feel after social media, looking at social media, that we feel worse about ourselves. If that's the case, maybe reassess who you're following, and you can unfollow people. You can use the mute button on Instagram. I love that button.
Yeah,
You know?
we use it a lot.
And you know, set those boundaries for yourself, and then make sure that you're still prioritizing your life offline. Don't forget about your relationships in real life. That's so important. You know, put your phone down while you're having dinner with your family or your friends. And again, set those boundaries for yourself and talk to your friends and family about what types of boundaries you want to have around that. Make sure that FaceTime, like the real life FaceTime, stays a thing in your life. It's very important. And lastly, don't worry about the algorithm, because the algorithm, you know, we can't control that, and it's changing all the time. So if you hear about this thing saying that you need to post every day or anything like that, please just disregard it. Have fun with what you're posting, and make sure that you're not going to burn out from trying to keep up.
Definitely.
Okay, we have 2 minutes and a few questions, so we'll try to answer a couple of them very quickly. And yes, we will shoot you a code in 2 minutes to use in Challenge Valley for those who are asking. So I have a few questions, Angel. Maybe I'll read them all out and we'll see what we can do in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We have a question of what is the best way to grow on our social media pages to become successful? Somebody asked, what is the best time limit? I'm not sure, maybe they meant the time to post.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And then we also have a question, do you think that social media is more negative than positive?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we can answer the first one. My advice would always be, don't use social media with the aim of being successful, because if you're using it for the aim of being successful, the likelihood is you probably won't be. You use social media to share the things that you're passionate about. And if you are, as we've described in all of the examples today, we've shared people that are authentic, they're telling their story through their own words and their own life experiences, and people really resonate with that. So being able to use social media authentically is the best way that you have a chance of being successful, because you'll find that people resonate with you and people are interested in what you have to say and what you have to tell them.
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of time limit, it's different for every country and also for your followers. So you'll be able to see on the social media channels that they have in the insights, they do give a little bit of a guesstimate of when they think that your current followers are most active. So our recommendation honestly would just be follow those tools and trial and error, try posting at different times, and then you'll start to figure out when people are more interactive.
And in fact, I think that's a good tip for social media in general, trial and error. You just have to try different things and see what is the best way to get your message across to people. You know, for some of you, you might be super good at talking to the camera and that really works for you. For others, maybe it's like starting a channel where you share graphics because you're really good at using like Canva or, you know, visual tools like that, and you're good at explaining things visually. So find what works for you to get your message across. And the only way to do that, try.
Yeah.
Give it a
it's definitely
shot.
that.
Yeah. And, you know, don't give up right away. You might not get the response you want right away. So give it a fair chance
Yeah.
and see
Keep
what happens.
trying.
I also want to reiterate something that Angel mentioned earlier about the size of your audience. There's actually research that shows that people with a smaller audience have an audience that is more attentive and more loyal to them because they're more likely to actually know you or feel like they have a personal connection to you. And I think that's a really important thing to remember because it means that you actually can have a very profound impact on those people. So don't worry if you don't have millions of followers. Please like share what you're passionate about. Do it in a way that's authentic, and that's how you can help use social media for social good. Besides that, I say keep leading by example, show kindness to others online, be supportive of other people. And any last messages?
Create a better world. I'll very quickly touch on Brandon's message about whether social media is more negative than positive, and our action is it's what you make of it. So as we've mentioned in how to use social media and well-being, if you're finding that social media becomes a negative place, then use all the tools that we previously mentioned and control who you are following.
Yay. So the final thing, okay, final two things. One, please stay connected with us. Follow us at World Scouting on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We are not active yet on TikTok, but we're gonna get there. So please follow us now so you can be the first to know. And you can stop, yeah. And here's your Challenge Valley code. So I put it in the in the chat as well. DXQVQ. DXQVQ, and this will give you 1 point towards your international friendship digital badge on Jyoti Jyoti.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Have a great time at Jyoti Jyoti, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.